Good morning, everyone. I hope this video finds you in good health and best of spirits. Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why we need to leverage 21st century intellectualism. I published a major paper on this a year or so ago, a little more than that, in order to shift the locus of public attention to more contemporary issues. Okay, and to rebirth and to regestate establishment intellectualism in the 21st century. Okay, it needs to be infused with 21st century values and 21st century considerations rather than obsolete and archaic and old-fashioned ones. Okay, the name of my paper on 21st century intellectualism was open quotes redefining intellectualism for a post-globalized world. Why present day intellectualism is obsolete and why a comprehensive reassessment of intellectualism is required. Close quote. It was published in the year 2023 in the year in the journal IJASRT. Okay, in this paper, I had tried to explain why present day intellectualism at that point in time at least was outdated. I had also explained why present day intellectualism was lacking. Okay, I had also attempted to define what intellectualism was, who an intellectual is, what are the attributes and characteristics of a good intellectual. Okay, I had also defined intellectualism and anti-intellectualism. Okay, and strategies to mitigate anti-intellectualism and pseudo-intellectualism. Okay, and trying to look down upon people for pompous naivety and adopting a ponderous pedantic tone, etc. Okay, and I had also reviewed various schools of thought: Hindutva, Marxist, Dalit, nationalist, Dravidian nationalist, etc. I had also explained the characteristics of left-wing ideology and right-wing ideology in brief. I had also explained the various schools of thought briefly along with their names, with reference to the seating as arrangement in the French National Assembly at the time of the French Revolution in the 1790s. Okay, I had also spoken about the various gods that failed. This would provide a springboard for meaningful creativity and thought. Okay, and can provide a basis by for present day and contemporary intellectualism by trying to override the lacunae and the limitations of older approaches. Okay, these are mostly the failures of left-leaning approaches, of course. As left-leaning approaches wane away into obscurity, okay, or fall behind, fall and fade into the background, get relegated to the background or die out in due course as it is likely to happen, or reform is much less likely, much more unlikely. The god that failed was part one was Marxist economic praxis. The god that failed part two was Marxist historiography. We had written against this extensively. The god that failed part three was left-leaning intellectualism. The god that failed part four was eradication of religion. The god that failed part five was over centralization of power. The god that failed part six was linguistic uniformity. The god that failed part seven was family planning. The god that failed part eight was basis of naturalism. The God that failed, part 9, was the theological concept of God, which itself is highly limiting and limited. The God that failed, part 10, is the basis of rationalism. Okay, I had written a paper on rationality subsequently. That was a couple of months ago. Please read that as well. And as such, I had proposed a concept of intellectualism by objectives. As such, intellectualism must be driven by objectives, which must be defined and redefined continuously and constantly in various contexts and situations in relation to local and real world problems, regional specific real world problems. A list of objectives must be proactively built up for different contexts and conditions. This will need to be done by identifying issues that need to be remediated in different contexts and situations and by building up a composite and comprehensive database of issues. The database of issues must be updated from time to time as and when new concerns and considerations arise or are identified. Thus, objectives will need to be linked to problems and issues that plague and bedevil or riddle the world and or a section of society in it. Okay. Therefore, intellectuals from different parts of the world are focused on different issues at different points of time, but there are different common strands that run through. I have spoken about racism, apartheid, class struggle, slavery, slave trade, gender equality, religious fundamentalism, human rights, individual liberty, child rights, child abuse, drug trafficking, substance abuse, alcoholism, use of tobacco, environmentalism, global warming, sustainable development, inculcation of a scientific temper, trickle up economics, universalization of education, better pedagogical techniques, the development of scientific historiography, international peace and harmony, development of critical thinking and regional sneak skills among individuals, fighting Eurocentrism with science, etc. This also includes fighting Indocentrism, Xenocentrism, or Afrocentrism. This would only be an addition to a standard omnibus list that may be prepared in all contexts and circumstances. Examples being reduction of economic problems or economic inequalities are leading to a faster pace of growth, bottom-up growth models. Okay, intellectuals must also identify problems that plague the world and seek solutions for them actively, proactively. Action plans to solve the issues plaguing the world also must be developed using a grounds-up approach. Every time you need a zero-based reassessment, then you need to think creatively, intuitively, instinctively, by eschewing dogma and rigidity of thought. No Eurocentrism of any kind or any other centrism of any kind. One must adopt a truly globalized approach and understand the problems of plaguing all societies and cultures around the world. Okay. However, proposed solutions to those problems may be local based, or they may be even extended to other contexts as and when possible and necessary. No form of ideology has to be followed. I have spoken about ideology and approaches to identify ideologies. Therefore, no ideology approach must be followed as far as possible, but this itself must not become a dogma. No nerdism and no ivory tower and intellectualism would be encouraged in the normal course of events. So I have written about this extensively previously. All sections of society, including different socio-economic groups and socio-cultural groups, must be surveyed. Okay, this I have defined social cultural groups and socio-economic groups in a previous paper. Please read that. Emic perspectives must be followed as possible. Combined must be combined with ethic perspectives to create ethnic perspectives. Okay, ethnic. I have written about this also previously. Whenever there are disputes, a resolution mechanism must be employed if necessary through arbitrary setters and intermediary, and points of view of different people must be taken into account and considered. Now, I have also spoken about diverse emic, representative emic, non-representative emic, typical emic, atypical emic, and these same categorizations are all good for ethic also. Okay. I have also spoken about action anthropology and critical ethnography. These must be followed wherever possible. Valid social sciences techniques such as ethnography, surveys, questionnaires must be employed, and a proper research methodology must be followed. Other approach to critical thinking such as trees, lateral thinking, zigzag sticking, etc. can also be followed. Fieldwork driven techniques and participation of participant observation techniques must also be employed if possible. And ethics must also be pursued and followed rigorously and assiduously, painstakingly at any cost. Okay, field work. Okay, and the principles of neocentrism must also be followed. I had written about this in detail. I have also written about CRCD, continuous reconciliation of contradictory data or evidence. I have also written about Rawls reflective equilibrium. I have also written about dialectic approaches were developed by ancient Greek thinkers such as Plato, Socrates, method of alliances, etc., and later by G.W.F. Hegel, who modernized it greatly, and Karl Marx, who used it in a restricted sense. Okay, I also used concepts such as reflective equilibrium through role swapping, or RERS, and I have also spoken about auto dialectics. Okay, therefore, intellectualism must always be solution driven for real world problems and practical problems that plague the world. The exercise of identifying problems, including new ones, must be carried out from time to time repeatedly. Intellectuals must strive to break down barriers that divide us humans and build down identities such as nationalistic identity or religious identity wherever and whenever they are too strong. The cultural rights of all groups must be respected. One culture must not be allowed to override other in the normal course of events. Ethics and ethical principles must also be developed at least formally and followed. We look forward to at least informal codes of conduct in this regard. Okay, and India still we have not matured. Indian intellectualism has not evolved matured at the time. It's sorts of kind of fossilized, stuck in ossified past, antiquated, anachronistic past. Okay, it's an and in we are still in an antediluvian state. For example, India, we have an obsession with politics. This is because India is a noisy democracy, unlike China, where dissent is suppressed brutally. Okay, and through the use of state force and through the mechanisms of state machinery. Also, many issues pertaining to daily life remain resolved, as well as many issues pertaining to economics, policy making, administration. A lot of things are unresolved, and we're still learning from our mistakes. Okay, I would also urge you and implore and beseech you to read the book The Argumentative Indian by Amartya Sen. Politics is also largely shaped by identity, and you have a see, India is multi-ethnic, multicultural, and there are different identities which are intersecting each other at different levels and forging composite identities. Politics is also naturally shaped by ideology, and there are many different ideologies in India, which in turn are shaped by identity. Okay, people do not necessarily neither do politicians necessarily do what's good for society or for the common man. There is a lot of masala. Masala is a typical Indian word. It refers to a complex blend of spices. It also provides entertainment for the masses. There is a lot of gossip, grapevine. There are a large number of political magazines like India Today, Frontline. Frontline is left leaning, Open, Organizer, right leaning, Outlook, Swarajya, right leaning, Tehelka, left leaning, etc. We also have some tabloids, half-size newspapers with sensational content. However, these are not been picked up. These are not picked up fully. Before they could pick up, I think they were killed by the internet. Okay, and we also have an obsession with scandals, corruption stories, sensational gossip, etc. And this may have been due to an oversized government in the past, which also bred corruption. For example, even Rajgopalchari or Rajaji, C. Rajaji, who was a critic of Nehru socialism and was a voter of individual freedom and liberty, believed that socialism would lead to corruption, stagnation, and red tape. People at the time had nothing better to do, so, because there was very little economic growth, and the middle class and the educated folk were utterly disillusioned with the then prevailing state of affairs. There were therefore ultimately large number of scandals in India. Even though Rajiv Gandhi emerged as Mr. Clean initially in December 1984, he also was plagued by scandals such as Bofors scandal. There were other scandals later on, and at the same time, like stamp paper scam, Best Bakery case, Taj corridor case. Okay, and while fighting corruption is important, fighting scandals is important, exposing politicians is important. It is not as important now as it was during the Nehru era. Politics is important, but along with that, we also need to have a thrust on contemporary issues. Okay, Indians also, in addition to politics, are obsessed with cricket. Cricket was introduced to India by the British, and it brought about a semblance of cultural unity between the Indians and British, clinical cultural unity. Cricket was brought to India in the early 1700s, and the first document uh, uh, evidence of cricket being played was in the year 1721. It was also used as a medium for Indians to integrate with the British cultural norms and served as a bridge between the two cultural groups, as it made assimilating people much easier. And it was usually played in India by Indian elites to gain some favor, a semblance of cultural acceptance by the British. In parts of India like West Bengal, Bangladesh, people are also obsessed with football. There are also sports magazines such as Sports Star, a lot of culture, other sports channels, sports blogs. A lot of people discuss sports. India is also emerging as a major player. We have D. Gukesh, we have Arjun Ergasi, we have Pragnyananda, and we have Hampi Koneru. We have a large number of other people. Vidit Gujarati, we have a large number of other people. India needs to be strong in sports, but at the same time, we also need to focus on other things also in addition to sports. Indians are also obsessed with cinema, as you're perhaps aware. We have uh, obsession with big ticket stars. We have a Hindi following, flourishing Hindi film industry known as Bollywood. We have major players such as Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan. We have Tollywood, Telugu, which has stars such as Chiranjeevi and Nagarjuna, Bollywood, Tamil, Shivaji Ganesan, Rajinikanth, MGR, Sandalwood, Kanda, Dr. Rajkumar, etc. We have large number of cinema-based magazines such as Picture Post, which I think now obsolete or closed, and Stardust, etc. People are still obsessed with cinema actors, though to a reducing and declining degree. Indians are also obsessed, thankfully, with business and business stories and business matters. This is healthy. Many Indians are also investors and traders of varying sizes, okay, and inclinations. Some are small, some are big. We have many good business magazines in India, like Forbes India, Business India, BW Business World, Fortune India, this Fortune India, etc. At the same time, intellectuals must also help people's broaden people's horizons and help them see the and discern the world more clearly, other than the narrow areas of focus I have mentioned. Intellectuals must expose ordinary people to the plethora of opportunities. This has become like a chain reaction. Like intellectuals help a larger number of people rise. These people in church help a larger number of people rise, and this leads to some kind of a ripple effect or a domino effect. Okay, and it leads to a cascading effect, we may call it. Okay, and they must also explain. For example, right is obsessed with Hindu identity, at least a section of Hindu identity, and leftists obsessed may be obsessed still with minorities, and I could be wrong. Of course, all groups have equal right in India. There must be no bias and prejudice. Science in India still has a long, long way to go. And unfortunately, I must say, I'm sorry to state, but it's still its infancy. It's nascent and still its infancy. Science and scientific matters have very limited following even among the educated people. The list of science magazines is small but growing, but still this following is very small. We have magazines such as Science Reporter, Current Science, etc. They have a very small circulation. Scientific output in India is very low. Hardly anyone has won the Nobel Prize in India since independence. And even those winners who have won it have not been based out of India. Intellectuals must help remediate all this. In a generation or two, we can make a big change and make a big difference. Intellectualism must also pursue intellectualism by objectives which I have described previously, and they must also pursue issue-based intellectualism. Okay, of course, winds of change are blowing in the air, and this is a process that is constantly underway. For example, recent changes have been quite welcome. Past 30, 40 years since my childhood. Okay, I remember the past 50 years at least, but past 40 years much more clearly. We have had liberalization, we have had globalization, which was proposed by some left forces. We have had the rise of internet, which is a good thing because it has brought about education, rise of smartphones, increase in literacy, rise of developing nations, success of the environmental movement. There's a lot of awareness now, awareness on the need for sustainable development. A lot of new technologies are coming up. People have realized the importance of education in India. All this brings a high of relief and maybe a harbinger for better times to come. Okay, it can also lead to an exponential increase in scientific and economic performance. I believe we are on the threshold uh, of better days. Okay, however, there is any hardly any meaningful intellectual to begin with in India today. Things need to change rapidly. Intellectuals, if any, who are as and when they exist, are still stuck very much in the 20th century format. People are still busy evaluating Ambedkar, Gandhi, Tipu Sultan, Veer Savarkar, Jawaharlal Nehru, other people, etc. Okay, of course, there may have been biases in scholarship. It will always give this triple effect. But next generation thinkers must be fostered and inculcated. Of course, they are being identified by think tanks such as UK Research and Innovation, the Print, which is an India-based magazine, Penguin Publishers. However, the processes of intellectualism and the concepts of intellectualism associated with intellectualism are still outdated. Even the nominators are outdated, panelists are outdated, reviewers are updated, approvers are updated. Therefore, intellectualism is also automatically updated. Okay, nominees also will be naturally outdated. Okay, there are many such cases in the internet, cases and instances. Please refer my internet. That is why I have been trying to bring about some out of my chain. The six pillars of my mission are: one, revitalizing various fields of the social sciences for 21st century and beyond by moving them beyond colonialism and imperialism. This is the reason why we have published around over 75 core papers and 8 books, all of which are online. Number two, creating intellectual revolutions in various parts of so that there will be going on the line of the Renaissance and Enlightenment that took place in Europe a couple of centuries ago. We had published a paper on 21st century intellectualism in 2023. In addition, refer to our various other papers which contribute to this mission. Number three, rearming and pedagogy and education systems for the 21st century and beyond. We had published papers on anthropological pedagogy, sociology of science, besides a book on rebooting and revitalizing pedagogy for the 21st century. I've also spoken at length about the need to automate education. This may not happen immediately, but as and when this happens, this can be a major game changer. Number four, modulating the role of religion in the 21st century and beyond uh, through better education, social sciences research techniques, and the concerted efforts among governments. Refer to the book law on the role played by religion in 21st century and beyond. I've written about this. Slowly, over a period of time, we must set in place, set in motion processes that will decline the role of religion in society. It can happen slowly and gradually, not suddenly. Of course, Marx is a pure and childish and oversimplistic and naive, naively gullible. They believe that religion can be wished away with a magic wand. Of course, it won't happen. It has social, economic, political, cultural, and other factors, and it's just associated with the process of cultural identity and individuation. It won't go. Okay. And the second thing is the fifth number five. Point number five is developing bottom up development models for the developing world, which will contribute to our other objectives as well. Please refer to our other papers on anthropological economics and our book on economic development models. I have also published two other papers on anthropological economics, total three. Environmental movements also must be integrated to holistic and also taken into account must also taken into account and consideration the needs and requirements of people of developing countries. We also need to launch a low population for the environment movement or LOPE movement as I called it, as relatively low birth rates can lead to an evergreen demographic boom. We also need to simultaneously launch a high quality human resources movement for better quality human resources, we still have had this kind of a boomerang pendulum like oscillation. There was a left leaning approach. Of course, as Mahatma Gandhi once famously said, every mouth comes with two hands. So humans are not necessarily a burden on this planet. Okay, but we are, but the idea of a perfectly sustainable model of development is also a myth. I've written about this extensively. And so we need to, as far as possible, bring down our population gradually and improve the quality of resource. Many countries with a low total fertility rate, I hope you know what a total fertility rate is, are also doing economically well. It is for this reason, for debating issues, that I founded the Institute for Study of Globalization of Science, which is registered as Globalization of Science Trust, ISGOS. I have also founded the Scholars and Intellectuals for Mankind, Schema, and I have also founded the movement for open, transparent, high quality, and ideal research, MOPIs, which means 75 core papers and 8 books, and different concepts such as origin and language dynamics, 21st century historiography, theories of sociocultural change, Indo-ology, Indo-European studies, ethnography, identity theory, sociology of science, pedagogy, scientific method and the philosophy of science, anthropological economics, 21st century intellectualism, environmental issues, religion in the 21st century, and other miscellaneous categories of papers. Focusing on contemporary issues will bring up the ante to make the world a better place for us to live in. We therefore need to birth and gestate and create next generation of thought leaders now. We also need to target the younger generation for this, and we also may need to make a clean past break from the past if necessary. All this will definitely lead to higher quantity intelligence. It will help India become a better country. It will also help us to help other developing countries in other parts of the world also. We can contribute to other parts of the world. I've also spoken about horizontal collaboration, vertical collaboration. Please read my earlier papers. Thank you very much indeed. Goodbye.